Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. It is time for wrap-up time. It's the end of the month, or possibly the beginning of the month. I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this video. Probably going to be the beginning of March. But February is over, so let's talk about the books that I read. Now, February was a pretty rare month for me. I actually read more books than I bought, so that's what most people try and do all the time. I'm going to congratulate myself on doing it once. But without further ado, let's get into the 11 books that I read this month. Now, the first book that I got to this month may have kind of set me off on a good pattern, but that book is Alive by Scott Sigler. This is a book that you read in one sitting, and that's kind of how my month went. Everything just went quickly after this. This book is one of those books where you need to go in blind, and there's actually a note from the author at the end of the book asking you to not spoil the book for anybody who hasn't read it. It's one of those books where you just have no idea what's going on, the characters have no idea what's going on, and you just kind of go along with them for the ride. It was very reminiscent of the feeling of the Maze Runner series. Regardless of how you felt about that series, it was the same kind of feeling. And that you wake up in the mind of the main character who has no idea where they are, what happened to them, who they are, and they just need to survive and get through. So that was the aspect of the Maze Runner that I really liked. I didn't really like the juvenile turns that it took. So this is kind of the adult version. It's in the sci-fi section. It's not a YA book, and it gets pretty graphic. I gave this 4 stars. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a really, really fast-paced, like one-sit read. Definitely check this book out. Now you're gonna see a trend in this month's books. It was February, and for some reason I took that as read all the books that have roses on the covers, so here's number 1. I read Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge, which is still one of the best names. I hope that that's your real name, because that's the coolest name. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling that has a lot of mythology lore in it, and it sounded very appealing. A lot of people that I really, really trust their reviews on Goodreads gave this amazing reviews. So I went into this with really high hopes, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't mesh well with this book. We just did not see eye to eye me in this book. The issue I think that I had with this is the pacing. The backstory and the history of the world and the curse and everything doesn't match well with what real-time pacing is in the story, and I think that's what bothered me so much. It would slow it down and give you like this long drawn-out tale of like how something came to be, and then you would be back in real time, but nothing would be happening. I don't know, it dragged a lot for me, and I gave it 3 stars because I liked the creativity of the story. I liked how it wove the curse in to this new retelling version, and I liked the main character. She was very snarky. I really like tough female protagonist characters, and she was definitely that. But I don't know, me and this book just didn't see eye to eye. The next book that I got to is Reality Boy by A.S. King. Now, I have mixed feelings about how this book went for me. I feel like this was not a very good first impression of A.S. King for me. A.S. King is one of those authors that if you read her, you love everything by her. She is apparently very good at magical realism. This book, I don't think was a good first impression, to be honest. There was not magical realism. I feel like this book would have read better as a short story than as a full-length novel, but her writing definitely shone through. I am definitely sold on her writing. She turns some very mundane situations or even just sentences and turn them beautiful. But this book is about a boy who grew up on like a reality nanny TV show, and his awful toddler self kind of follows him through his entire life, and he has some serious family issues, and it's just kind of a coming of age tale. And I feel like it just would have read a lot better as a much shorter story than as this whole drawn out family drama saga that happened. But I gave it 3 stars. I still really, really liked the writing, and I still really want to check out more by her. So I'm gonna keep going with A.S. King. Next book that I got to is Soundless by Rochelle Mead. This is a very interesting story. It's, I believe, a retelling of Chinese folklore of a town that there is no sound. Nobody can hear, everybody is deaf, and slowly people start to also go blind. So obviously there is going to be some serious issues if everybody loses their senses, and This story takes place when a girl wakes up one day and can just hear. I really liked the premise of this. I really liked the atmosphere of this. I would have actually liked to read more of this. Like, I would have liked this to be a lot longer so I could experience the world more. But I appreciate them keeping it to the actual original tale and just kind of revamping it. I gave this 3 stars. I really enjoyed it. The next book that I got to is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I know I'm like the last person in the world to read this, but this is also fitting in with the like rose theme. And also it is another Beauty and the Beast retelling. So, I mean, I didn't really mix with the first one, so I tried another one. Me and this one got along. Don't worry, guys. This one was good. I have not read anything by Sarah J. Maas. I know, that's like sinful in BookTube world to have not read the Throne of Glass series, but it's just very daunting at this point to take on that whole series. So I started with this, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed the story. This is kind of reminiscent of the Lunar Chronicles with how well she wove a very famous fairy tale into a completely new fantasy world, and it just fit really well. So I'm intrigued to see where this story goes, if it's going to keep going with the fairy tale thing, or if it's just going to be a good way to develop the world. Either way, it was good. I liked it. So I really liked this. I really liked the main characters. I thought they were very well developed and interesting. The only downfall I had with this was kind of the reveal of like the curse situation that's going on. I feel like it was way too situational. Like everything just fit perfectly in. Like I feel like it was kind of a cop-out with how things led up to that point to find out that everything just happened to be that way. I don't know. I'm not trying to spoil anything. That was the only issue I had with this book. Either way, I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it, and I immediately pre-ordered the sequel, so that has to say something. The next book that I read is These Shallow Graves by Jennifer Donnelly. I didn't even hear about this book coming out, and I'm highly disappointed in myself for that. But Jennifer Donnelly is kind of a go-to person for me now when I'm looking for historical fiction in YA. She wrote A Northern Light and the book Revolution, both of which are unbelievable, historically accurate, fictionalized stories, if that makes sense. I gave this 4 stars. It's phenomenal. It's set in New York City and kind of the turn of the century era. And it's about a girl who is very high society and from a very rich family, and she's just very slowly understanding the troubles of the real world outside of her like tea parties and ball gowns and stuff. And she is not scared by it. She's actually intrigued by it and wants to write about it. And it just follows this murder mystery where she meets all these characters that she should never be talking to as a lady. And it's just so enjoyable. The characters are so good, and you fly through it for a historical book. That's impressive for me. So I gave this 4 stars. I highly recommend it. It's very dark. There's definitely some gross scenes in it, but everything in it is historically accurate, which I really appreciate. The next book that I got to is Juliet by Anne Fortier. I've had this book for a very long time because this came out in 2010, and this is the ARC. So that kind of goes to show how long this has been sitting on my shelf, so I figured it was finally time to read it. Had a rose on the cover. I was going with that theme. This book is advertised as a woman's Da Vinci Code. First of all, that's my first issue with this book. That's extremely offensive that women can't appreciate the Da Vinci Code. I don't know why it's advertised that way, but that irks me in a big way. This book is very reminiscent of the Da Vinci Code, except instead of like governmental conspiracy theories, this is Shakespearean historical conspiracy theories. Kind of supposed to discover the real story of Romeo and Juliet and their lineage, and it leads you through this like wild chase through Italy, learning about the real families involved, not the Capulets and the Montagues, but like the actual people. This book started out really well for me. I kind of liked the ride that it was taking me on. I knew that it wasn't going to be amazing, but as this book was going on, I just lost more and more and more interest in it. It could have ended like 200 pages earlier and I probably still would have felt meh about it. But I don't know. I gave this 2 stars. If that sounds like something that would interest you, I would highly recommend checking it out. There's a lot of fact in it, which is very interesting, but I just felt like there was too much drama and not enough interesting historical stuff in it. I don't know. I feel like too much was made up to make it believable. And that's all I got for this one. The next book that I got to is Reign of Shadows by Sophie Jordan. This book is beautiful, that's why I bought it. Also because Sophie Jordan is one of my favorite authors as far as YA quick reads go. She wrote the Firelight trilogy, which is about dragons, and I just really liked that series just because it was very quick and thorough. That's kind of how I think of her. This is her take on high fantasy, and in my opinion, this is a retelling of Rapunzel. It's very princess hidden up in a tower. I really enjoyed this. Sophie Jordan is very good at developing characters and developing a backstory in a world in a very short amount of time. Like her books are normally between like 200 and 300 pages, but you feel satisfied. You feel like you got the whole story and that it was well developed enough for you to actually be attached to the characters, but just very quickly. So if you're looking for a quick high fantasy read, I definitely check this out. I really like the twists that she put on the characters, so I recommend this one. I gave this one 4 stars. The next book that I read this month, I don't know if it's really going to count as a full book or not because it was a very short novella, but that is The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. This is a very short story that she released about some really messed up people, which can kind of summarize all of her books, to be honest. But I just really enjoyed the story. The characters are just as effed up as all of her other characters. It was just a very condensed Gillian Flynn story. So I gave this 3 stars. It was definitely worth reading or listening to. I personally listened to it for like an hour. That's how long it is. So definitely check that out if you like Gillian Flynn. This next book that I got to is Challenger Deep by Neal Shusterman. I'm going to leave a link to my full review of this video in the description. I highly recommend you check it out. This is a very important book for people to read. It's Neal Shusterman's fictionalized story about his sons dealing with schizophrenia and mental illness, and it is just handled so beautifully. It's told from the boy's perspective, and you kind of get a grasp on what he thinks is reality and what isn't reality and how things start to slip. It explains mental illness in such a realistic and raw way. I highly recommend it. I gave this 5 stars. This was my favorite book of the month. So check this book out if that at all interests you. I just think it's a very important read. The last book that I got to this month is The Fever by Megan Abbott. This book reminds me a lot of YA Gillian Flynn, and that may have just been because she is blurbed on the cover of this, so that may have put the idea in my head, but this book is definitely very reminiscent of younger versions of Gillian Flynn's characters. This is about a high school where girls start kind of just randomly dropping like flies with this contagious disease that's happening, and nobody knows what it is, where it came from, and blame turns into the fever, in my opinion. It starts to show in the parents and all the PTA meetings of parents just tossing blame around to everybody, and all the kids start to discuss all the drama and gossip, so blame is passed around between them. It was just handled very well. The ending was a little bit of a letdown for me, but for that type of book, I think it fit well. It's not a typical YA conclusion where everybody lives happily ever after. Like I said, it's very much YA Gillian Flynn. So I gave this 3 stars. I actually really liked how dark and twisted all the characters were. Whew. And that's everything that I read this month. That was a long one. So that's gonna be it for me this video. I hope you guys had an amazing reading month. I feel fairly accomplished with all the books that I got through. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.